Joining me now, Democratic strategist Adam Sostrin. Adam, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Adam, you heard President-elect Trump there. He said it was ridiculous, the idea of Russia being involved. What do you say? You think it's ridiculous?
Well, yeah, I feel like he's always shooting from the hip. I don't know how he can possibly say, oh, this is ridiculous, this is wrong, this isn't true. Then afterwards he says, you know, I don't know, none of us know. As usual, you have an unpolished answer from the president-elect. Certainly it appears that there has been some sort of hacking with respect to Russia. At least that's what we're getting from our intelligence agencies.
Right, I think that's what you call a knee-jerk reaction, that's his first reaction to it, and then he goes back, gets more information, formulates his answer, and comes back with a second try here. But I would actually agree with you. I think there has been evidence that there's been Russian hacking, or at least leaks from Russian sources to WikiLeaks. That's not exactly new information post-election.
Correct.
My question is, how do we know that this influenced the outcome of the election?
Well, that's the thing. It's one of those intangibles. I mean, how do you know that, right? A big part of the issue was the, the Hillary email issue that went on. That was a huge part of the campaign. And, that was in a way that was separate and apart from, let's say, the Russian hacking of, the DNC and the Russian hacking of Podesta and all the leaks that came out with respect to, her campaign and those emails. Did they have an impact on, the voter's mind? Did the emails have an impact on the voter's mind? Did that make enough of a difference to change a mind? These are things that we can't figure out. There are things certainly that if we were going to give it to the electors to, let's say, recalculate, reformulate their decision, they wouldn't know either.
Right, and I don't think it's their role to play the CIA or the FBI here. Their role is to represent the people of their state. We talked about that in the last segment. Adam, I'm glad you brought up Hillary Clinton's private email server, though, because this is one of the sticking points for me on the Russia hacking story. Like I said, I don't doubt that the Russians tried to influence our election. I think they've done that for decades. We've done that to them. That's nothing new, and that doesn't justify it, but it's certainly not something new that happened this election. But if the Russians did, in fact, hack the DNC in order to help Donald Trump, not just to disrupt our election process, why did they leave fingerprints behind to identify themselves when the FBI was not able to likewise identify them as hacking Hillary's server?
Right. There may have been no fingerprints with respect to the RNC and some fingerprints with respect to the DNC. Those things I don't have an answer to. Of course, what we're being told from Corker, what we're being told from McCain. We're going to find out more when there are going to be hearings on this. We should find out in the next couple of weeks. I believe Obama stated that he wanted to have an answer at least before January 20.
Right, and I know the New York Times claimed that the RNC was hacked. Reince Priebus said the FBI investigated that at the time that the DNC was hacked, and the FBI found no evidence that the RNC was in fact hacked. I guess that's something I want to know too. It's important to know whether it was hacked on both sides and whether it was just the Democratic emails here that were released.
Right.
But Adam, your colleagues on the left, they're jumping to a lot of conclusions here. They're acting like this investigation has already happened. They're acting like, oh, well, there you go. Russia handed the election to Donald Trump. Nice, neatly tied bow on his gift of the presidency. Don't you think it's a little too soon to jump to these conclusions?
Well, in a way, it was a gift. I mean, I've seen the information come out with respect to the CIA response that it was designed to help Donald Trump win the election because, as soon as we went past summer, there weren't the leaks, let's say, or the hacking that I've heard about at least coming, with respect to the RNC. It just went, it was just, bad information coming from the Democrats. So of course it was helpful. The FBI came out and their issue as well. We don't know what the motive was.
Right.
There is no motive being established by the fact that it's just DNC information that's being hacked. But of course it sounds like...
I get that, and I do think it's suspect. But my question is, how can we have answers? How can we, if we don't have answers yet, if these investigations haven't happened, if we don't have a definitive answer, how can we draw the conclusion that it did happen? Not only that it did happen, that it was meant to damage Hillary Clinton in order to prop up Donald Trump. If we don't have those answers, how can we draw that conclusion fairly?
Well, I think you have the Director of National Intelligence and you have the CIA stating one thing, in fact, that there was hacking. And of course, that was helpful to Trump. We know it was helpful to him. We don't know what the motive was, but we can assume that the motive was to be helpful to Trump. So of course it was.
I don't think we can assume that, though, because Vladimir Putin just patently doesn't like Hillary Clinton as a person. He complained to President Obama about her. He doesn't like her from the get-go. So I don't think that we can draw the conclusion necessarily that it was to bolster Donald Trump. It could be just to damage Hillary Clinton because he doesn't like her.
Well, I think that even throughout the course of the campaign, all the statements, of course, that have come out from Trump have been very unfortunately, have been very pro-Russia. Fortunately, though, we do have, we have, Bob Corker, we have John McCain, we have people, Paul Ryan, that see Russia more clear-eyed, that can sort of be a check to those things. But I think it was, let's say, it was in his interest to be the beneficiary of some of those leaks. Of course it was.
Right. Well,
no
let me put it this way then. Let me put it this way. The CIA is the only intelligence agency that's making this assessment, making this announcement at the time. As we know, there are 17 total intelligence agencies in our nation. The 16 others did not join. There was not a consensus because they don't think that there are enough questions answered. Shouldn't we wait until there's a consensus before drawing this conclusion, especially now when we're dealing with so many allegations of fake news impacting our nation?
Well, of course we have to get to the bottom of it, but if they do have, in fact, and I can't imagine that they would just make a bold assertion like that there was indeed hacking coming from the, at the behest of the Russian government, that somehow it involved the Clinton campaign. Those things, of course, I think you can jump to some kind of a conclusion by saying, well, this is unfair. Then why are the other 16
intelligence agencies, why aren't they saying anything?
Well, at least we know from the FBI that the issue is, well, we don't know if that was their motive. Like, as you were just saying before, there were other reasons to dislike Hillary. But when your idea is to, if you don't like one person and you're throwing these things out, obviously it's to the benefit of the other person who's running in a two-party, a two-person campaign.
Right, but the CIA is accusing something different. They're accusing the Kremlin, essentially, they're accusing Russia of actively trying to prop up Donald Trump. That's different than what the FBI was saying before. The FBI was saying that they perhaps hacked, but it was with the intent to disrupt our election process, to cause the divide that we experienced in our nation. But this is a new allegation from the CIA, and it's different.
But what were those things that were leaked? They were all designed to hurt Hillary Clinton. So it seems clear to me, at least, what the intent is. I don't work for the CIA, and I'm not going to make any assumptions, and I feel stupid for saying it seems clear to me, right?
Right.
But we know what it said in those emails, and the purpose of those emails were at least to undermine the Clinton campaign. So I don't think that's in question, but they want to find some sort of smoking gun, some kind of direct evidence. Nobody's obviously in the room. There's no fly on the wall
right.
from the
And
U.S. government.
That's all I'm saying is that until we find that smoking gun, until we find that evidence, I think it behooves all of us. It's in the interest of the American people to wait, to withhold judgment, because we might not be right, and that might be a false narrative. Adam, I'd love to keep talking about this, but we're out of time.
I'd love to, too.
Thanks for
having
being here.
me.